Something I'm going to start doing on the show is bringing in ordinary people who have done something unbelievably physically challenging and learned something from it. Some of these people might be ultramarathoners. Others might be everyday people who just went out and started doing something physical and kept pushing the boundaries and learned something in the process. And there is no better person to start this idea out than my good longtime friend, Foster Kamer. So I first met Foster when I was working in media in New York City. We were both editors at different publications. We would occasionally send each other stories to do. And he's originally from Vegas. So when I moved to Vegas, anytime we would come in to town to meet with his family, hang out, have holidays, we'd always meet up, hang out, do something. Foster, you will learn though, is not necessarily an athletic person. You know, he walks around a lot, he does a few things, but he's definitely not a physical specimen. And yet, that said, one day he got some bad news in his life. I'll let him explain that. And it prompted him to leave his house with a 25-pound weight in a backpack on his back, so he was rucking. And he started walking. And each time he would go to stop, he would keep walking and keep walking. And it ended in one of the most amazing physical acts I've ever heard of in my life. So we're going to bring him on to talk about that. Not to mention, he did this thing twice. And he learned so much from it in the process about the power of walking, about the power of getting outside what is ordinary, and things about himself that really reframed what he had gone through and the news that he received. So with that all said, we're going to bring in Foster. Foster, my favorite person from Las Vegas and friend.
Oh, get out of here.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Michael.
Here's where we need to start for context. I would not say that you are not athletic. I would also not say that you are a David Goggins type. I don't think you live by your Whoop score.
No.
I do know that you occasionally, at least used to, enjoy a cigarette or two.
Not for 6 years now, but yes. Or 8 years. 8 years, actually.
You go see DJs that begin at the time that I go to bed.
Well, after that.
Well, after that. You are active, I would say, like a lot of New Yorkers. Shitload of walking.
Inveterate walker. It's true.
Do you go to the gym?
Sometimes. I belong to a rock climbing gym, which was not the cliche that it is now. A friend got me into rock climbing bouldering about 5-6 years ago. I'm doing less of that these days, but I do go to the gym. I did take a weightlifting class last year. I would not call myself athletic, though.
Fair.
Spry
is good.
Might be a word. Yeah.
But one fine day, you do something that I would classify as very athletic. I would say it puts you in David Goggins territory in the sense that you put on a weighted backpack. How much was it?
25 pounds. And the first year I did it, I don't think I actually had anything in it besides the weight. Yeah.
So why did you take this walk in the first place?
So that same friend who got me into indoor rock climbing was my best friend of 25 years. His name is Henry Molina.
And you met at summer camp.
We met at summer camp when I was 13 years old, my first day of sleepaway camp in Cleveland, Georgia, Camp Coleman. And yeah, we had an incredible friendship of 25 years. We lived together for a time. We got in all kinds of mischief together. When I first moved to New York, we moved together right before I turned 21. And so, he eventually moves to LA. Him and his partner, Margaret, they moved there. And in 2020, he's diagnosed with a squamous cell carcinoma of the parotid gland, which is, it's a cancer of the gland behind your sweat gland around there. Sorry to all the doctors who know what a parotid gland is and are cringing at my description of it. And he has a big surgery, goes through chemo and radiation therapy. It comes back as metastatic, and in July of 2022, he passes away. And, there is some form of relief, I would say, with it, because you don't want to see this person that you love suffer for so long. And it's over. It's done. Yeah. And you are all of a sudden looking at, your life after this thing has happened.
And how old was he?
So he was 37. And I know that there are a lot of people who did not know just how sick he was. He wanted to keep very private about it. So I know the next day some news is going to get out and there are going to be some questions. And frankly, I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. I work a lot from home. I just didn't really want to be home that day.
Yeah, sitting by yourself.
Well, and it was late July in New York City. So it's middle of the summer. People are out, warm, beautiful day. And I don't want to be sulking inside my apartment, but I don't want to be anywhere else either. I just don't want to be inside. Being inside felt too restrictive.
Yeah.
And so I'd gotten the rucking backpack through you.
Mm-hmm.
And I love walking around the city. I love putting in music in my headphones and walking on any day, I should add. And so I just get moving. I just throw on the backpack and I get moving.
Where did you leave from? Your apartment?
My apartment's in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
No direction in mind. No mileage. No, just I'm going to walk.
Yeah, I'm going to walk. I think sometime I was headed towards the Williamsburg Bridge because I love going by the water. And at a certain point, I'm going over the Williamsburg Bridge and I think to myself, you know what I've never done? I've lived in New York for 17 years and I've never walked over the Manhattan Bridge.
Mm.
And so you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to walk over the Manhattan Bridge. And if only as a small reminder to myself that even after this terrible thing happened, that there's still new things I can do, new horizons to reach across, literally new bridges to cross.
Yeah.
And that there's more that is new and wonderful ahead of this. And again, I wasn't in this despondently sad place. I actually believed that I was relatively well adjusted to the occasion. I was going to therapy. I was speaking with my friends about it. But when something shitty happens, you want to derive meaning from it.
Sure.
Or just make it less shitty, somehow ameliorate that shittiness.
Well, I think that reminds me of this research on how we frame events. So there's this idea of what story are you going to tell yourself about this bad thing that happened? This thing that just got thrown in your life. It wasn't good. And there's 2 ways that people frame things. There's what's called contamination stories. That is to say, this bad thing happened. It's contaminated my life. Everything is going to be bad thereafter. Or there's redemptive stories where this bad thing happened, but did I learn something from it? And can I at least see a lesson and a path out of it where I could end up better off, or at least not broken by it? And so to me, it sounds like you were almost thinking that with the bridge metaphor.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it was both of those, right? It was both of those kinds of stories. This thing happened to me,
Mm-hmm.
and also I'm going to make something of it. And I should say to anybody listening to this who thinks, God, that kind of mentality is amazing. I am not typically this person. I take stuff on the chin pretty hard. And my mental and emotional resilience is something that I still have to work on to this day. If the people closest to me would say I probably get too affected by things.
Mm.
And also to that point about the way we tell ourselves stories. I mean, Michael, you're a journalist. You've worked in stories. You've written books. You know me, and the way I relate to the world is through story.
Yeah.
As you said that, I thought to myself, yeah, that it does feel like the way we frame our life does break down into those 2 categories.
So
they can be both at the same time. But
you mentioned you were going through both. So were you going through mentally, or are you going through kind of swings along all these steps?
Well, it was just like this. It was like this thing happened to me and I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm angry. I wanted the world to stop for me and to mourn with me.
Yeah.
And I was angry that it didn't.
Yeah, you're in New
I
York
was
City. That place is never stopping.
right. And then, the cliche, it always happens to the best ones.
Yeah.
It's like, why did this happen to him and not? And here I pull out my scroll of all the people who, all the villains of this world who deserve what he got. Why didn't it happen to them? Your typical existential wonderings when faced with something like that. And I think the reflexive desire, be it out of some kind of guilt or some feeling of obligation and duty to the person who it involved, to do something with it, rather than just be a schmuck for whom something happens to, and then they go on with their lives. And also, I should say, it occurs to me that it was a way of keeping him close to me in that moment, as many things still are, which is kind of, I find how mourning works in a way, is so much of the way we express pain is trying to keep that pain close to us. Because it's scary to go forward in life without this thing that you've come to know so much, whether it's a person and their love or the pain of losing them. It is scary to move forward without those things.
Yeah. I feel like for me, walking can sort of serve as a metaphor that you do move forward. And there'll be swings along the way where it sucks, you feel like hell. You'll also have highs and lows, and that's kind of just like this metaphor for life, but you're still moving forward in that direction,
Right. Cutting back to that day, that fateful day, I've got the backpack on, I'm crossing the Williamsburg Bridge, and I'm going, I can't believe I've never walked across the Manhattan Bridge. So today, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to walk across the Manhattan Bridge. And the Manhattan Bridge, as far as bridges in New York go, it's not all that iconic. It's between the Williamsburg and the Brooklyn Bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge being the most iconic one, the Williamsburg Bridge having arguably the best walking and bicycling path. And the Manhattan Bridge is a little less ballyhooed, I should say.
It's a mid-level bridge. It's a very
Well, I have a view on this.
Okay, let's hear it.
I'm starting to walk across the bridge, and I was expecting the absolute worst, which I would experience later that day. But I'm walking across this bridge, and I'm going, oh my God. You know what I'm realizing about this bridge? I believe it is the highest of all of the bridge heights in New York.
Mm.
But at the very least, you are looking over the Brooklyn Bridge. So it is the best view you're going to get, arguably, of the Brooklyn Bridge out into New York Harbor. It's a beautiful view. The walking path is very small, the bicycling path, very small, but it's a beautiful view of the harbor. And so I'm standing in the middle of the bridge, looking at the view, going, damn, this is nice. And I'm so glad I did this. But you know what I've also never done? I've never walked across the Queensboro Bridge. And I say to myself, well, I don't have that much work to do today. I mean, I told my coworkers that somebody was out, so I had to answer a couple calls or something. But it's like, I can spend the day doing this. I got enough battery on my phone to listen to music. I'm not that tired yet. What if I crossed all four of the major bridges? The Williamsburg Bridge, the Manhattan Bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge, and the Queensboro Bridge in one day. Can I do it? And I was, I at that point was a couple hours in, and it did not feel all that difficult to me. And so off I go across the Manhattan Bridge into a neighborhood called Dumbo, which is an acronym that stands for Down Under Manhattan Bridge Overpass. And I start walking to the Brooklyn Bridge, and I get on the Brooklyn Bridge. And I cross the Brooklyn Bridge, which is, no matter what time of year it is, virtually always touristy and insane and ridiculous. If the Williamsburg Bridge is like lovely and a serene walk, and the Manhattan Bridge is just a tighter walk, a little bit more rough around the edges, but still pretty calm, the Brooklyn Bridge is always just teeming with people, TikTokers and people selling stuff. And it's a different slice of New York. And I think, well, I want to stay by the water. This was one of my mistakes. Or not, depending on how you see it. So I go due east on Manhattan, and I walk up the side of Manhattan, near the water. And this is the longest part of the walk because now I'm at the bottom of Manhattan. So I'm going under the Manhattan Bridge, under the Williamsburg Bridge, all the way up to 57th Street. And I don't know how many blocks it is exactly from City Hall to 57th Street, where the Queensboro Bridge is.
That's got to be at least 6 miles.
Let's see.
Fact check.
I'm doing the numbers right now. It says walking from the Brooklyn Bridge to the Queensboro Bridge is approximately 5.5 to 6 miles. This route generally follows a path along the East River, such as the 2nd Avenue or East River Greenway. So I definitely took the longest version of that, which was 6 miles.
Yeah.
Okay. And it is now midday, and the sun is beating down on me. I'm starting to feel it.
It's middle of the summer. Humid.
Middle of the summer. And I've got this backpack on my back.
Yeah, 25 pounds, 30 pounds, something like that.
So now I'm stopping at a park or two to take a sit. I get up to the Queensboro Bridge, which I have, again, never crossed, doing something new. I cannot, in good faith, recommend walking across the Queensboro Bridge because the walking and biking paths are one and the same. You're at level with the cars. So you're basically just a huff and smog. And when it drops you off in the middle of Queens. Now, if you are a tourist in New York and you tell me you're going to this part of New York, I'm probably convinced that you're either lost or you've done something terribly wrong in your trip planning.
Yeah.
I walk off the Queensboro Bridge, and now I'm in Long Island City. Long Island City was actually the first neighborhood I moved to in New York, and I moved there with Henry in 2005. We shared it was a one-bedroom apartment. The girl who lived there took the bedroom. We were sleeping on mattresses on the floor of the living room.
Awesome. How far did you end up walking the entire day?
Well, once I got to Queens, I was like, all right, home stretch.
Yeah.
So I walked over the Pulaski Bridge that connects Long Island City to Greenpoint.
Yeah.
That's about 45 minutes from my place. And I got there and I said, well, you're already here. You might as well do the full lap. I instead chose to walk south along the Greenpoint and Williamsburg waterfront all the way back to the base of the Williamsburg Bridge and then walk home, which is about 20 minutes from my place. So as opposed to walking 40 minutes from Greenpoint back to my place, I threw on another 40 minutes plus the 20 it takes to get from Williamsburg back to mine. And at that point, it was about 25 or 24 miles. Then I get home, I take the bag off. Holy shit, I've never felt anything like that.
Felt weightless.
Well, just immediately I knew that typically for anybody who's used a rucking backpack, you know the feeling of you take off the bag, you feel a sense of like relief and lighter. It's like when you're done doing a heavy set of lifting weights, your arms feel a little bit more nimble and airier and like they can move through air a little bit more quickly. Same thing when you take off a rucking backpack after like a normal ruck. I take off the rucking backpack. I do not feel that. I just feel sore.
Yeah. Like, what have I done? I love the moment where you go, I've never crossed all the bridges. What if I gave it a shot? Like that insight, I wonder where that came from. Where you're kind of doing something that's, you're pushing your edge a little bit and you just go, yeah, but how much farther can I take this thing? That's the best. I've had a few of those moments in my life where I'm out doing something. You just go, what if I just keep going? Let's see what happens. And it's like you go into this unexplored zone where you're going to test this thing and see what you maybe learn from it along the way. And I personally have found it's great for ideas. It's great for just kind of thinking. I mean, especially I haven't done it after something that significant in my life happened, like the loss of a friend or something. But I can say I gain a lot of insights from. Good example, when I did this crazy long hike in Utah last year, I came to like the center of my life and what I want to do with it and how I'm spending my time. And that would not have happened if I were to just take a hour-long walk around my house. It's like I had to really get out and get the time under my feet and let my mind just wander and go places, and it found where it needed to go. And I learned some things.
I wish those moments would happen more in my life.
Totally.
It was so inadvertent. And it was born out of I literally don't want to be in the house anymore.
Yeah.
And it was a variation on the line, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to stay where I was. And so it was truly this moment of like, what if I just do this? And you saying that, that's really interesting. Like, how often in life do we want to break out of the pattern and the thing that we're doing to get somewhere else? I wish I could come across those moments every day. I wish I could break my routines with the moxie of wanting to change shit up and the impetus to just try something and then go with it.
Totally.